Submission for the My Favorite Brain Part project for Dr. Brian Metcalf's psychobiology class for the fall of 2020. So today, for my favorite brain part, I decided to talk about the precuneus. So this is a kind of small brain part that there's not a lot of people who really know what it is, what it does, or where it is. And so in this presentation, I would like to talk about all that stuff and kind of explain why I think it's so interesting. So to begin with, I would like to talk about where the precuneus is within the brain. So the precuneus is located inside of both the cerebral hemispheres. So the way that there are, two cerebral hemispheres, the left and right hemispheres, it's going to be located on the inside, so kind of like in the middle of the head. It is located in front of the cuneus, which is why it's called the precuneus, with the cuneus being a part of the occipital lobe. So according to Wikipedia, it is a portion of the superior parietal lobule on the medial surface of each brain hemisphere. So basically what that means is that it is a part of the parietal lobe, and it is going to be located near the back and middle, and it's going to be on both brain hemispheres. So both your left and right hemispheres will have their own precuneus. And finally, this location kind of makes it really hard to study because it is not an area that is greatly affected by brain lesions or traumatic brain injury like concussions and gunshot wounds and things like that. And the main way that we research brains today is through injury. And so since it's not a place where there is a lot of injury, it did not have a lot of research until relatively recently. But these are just two of the pictures that I have. I have some more pictures that I can show that give you a better idea of where it's located. So as far as where the precuneus is located, you can see much better in these pictures where it is. So for instance, in this picture, this top left picture here, you can see that it is this highlighted blue section. You can see what I mean when I say that it is located on the inside of the cerebral hemisphere, and also that it's right on top of the occipital lobe. You can see a little bit closer here. That's where it is in relation to here would be the visual cortex. This is kind of subcortical, and then this red box would show you where it is. And in another one of these images, you can see the precuneus kind of activated within someone's brain. So now that we have a better idea of where it is, let's go ahead and talk about what the functions of the precuneus are. Let's talk about what the precuneus does. So the precuneus is one of the largest brain regions that is associated with mental imagery. That's kind of its main function. This mental imagery is especially concerning yourself as an individual, as the idea of self. So anytime you're trying to kind of picture yourself and also thinking about yourself in relation to someone else or something else, the precuneus is involved. This, of course, means that it's also very highly involved in self-consciousness, understanding who you are, who you were, who you want to be, etc. It's also highly involved with imagistic episodic memory. So basically that just means memories from events that have happened within your life. As far as remembering those and putting an image to it, having a visual kind of component to that, the precuneus is very important for that. And finally, the precuneus is also important for kind of orienting, or at least it's thought to be important for orienting the space around oneself and possible movement. So basically that means as far as understanding, for instance, me, understanding that there's a space around me, the computer is, this far from my face, the ways that I can move within this space, That's the precuneus. And also, um, if I were to try to imagine ways that I can move, so if I were to try to imagine myself putting my finger over the camera but not actually doing it, that's going to be the precuneus as far as visualizing myself and the space around me. So now that we've talked about the location and the function, I would like to talk about why I think the precuneus is so interesting. Reasons why I think the precuneus is so interesting. For one, it is an area that is not as highly researched because of its location, and that means that it's kind of ripe for discovery in a lot of different ways, and I think that that's really cool. Also, it has a relatively high metabolic rate in comparison with other brain regions, which means that it's using up a lot of energy, which seems to indicate that it's extremely important, and yet there's so little that's known about it. Um, Finally, it's seemingly important to this idea of self, which makes me wonder if there were no precuneus, or if it were underdeveloped, how would that affect our idea of being an individual entity as opposed to some collective entity? And understanding that could also unlock secrets to better understanding consciousness, which for me is very interesting, especially from a cognitive, neuropsychological kind of viewpoint. Um, and so that is the precuneus and why I think it's important. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.